What's up, heathens? How ya doing? Today we're gonna be going through more comments, but first we gotta crown the dumbass from last week. And last week's dumbass was... this dumbass right here! Yes, you that thinks that Christianity was invented by the Romans as a way to control the Jewish people. There's literally no evidence for that whatsoever. And I mean, I know I'm a mythicist, but damn, son. Pull the conspiracy out your ass. If you voted for this dumbass last week, then you win 1,000,000 God points. Remember, these God points are worth about as much as homeopathy. Speaking of dipshits, this week we have a woman that doesn't know where vitamin D comes from. Somebody's giving me reasons why Moses definitely existed. And obviously I can't refute Rob Skiba. And somebody says that I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed. Oh yes, somebody's telling me space doesn't exist, y'all. And apparently I can't live stream or debate because you guys would see right through my facade. If any of this dumb shit interests you, then please stay tuned. We'll get to the comments soon, but first we have... Today I learned... First up on Today I learned that the human anus is extremely person-specific, just as a fingerprint is, and smart toilets in the future could identify users by anus alone. I don't want a smart toilet eating up my shit and analyzing my bunghole. I mean, can you just imagine it? It's like, did you get all of his fingerprints? What about his asshole print? Did you print his asshole? Rub some ink on his asshole and get his asshole print too. And next on Today I learned that staring down seagulls can stop them stealing your chips, suggests a new study. Seagulls are sensitive to human gaze and change behavior when being watched, suggesting that they have theory of mind, the capacity to infer the mental states of others or associate being watched with being chased away. This is interesting. I find that, looking into the animal kingdom and seeing similar traits to us, is very intriguing. And I'm wondering where that's going to lead one day. I don't know. I may end up vegan, but I love hamburgers way too much. We are making a lot of progress with, like lab-grown meat and all this other stuff, so maybe I won't have to go vegan? I don't know. We'll have to see. And finally on Today I learned that diphenhydramine is marketed as both Benadryl, an allergy pill with the side effect of making one sleepy, and also Somanex, a sleeping pill with the side effect of helping one's allergies. Way to double dip there, Big Pharma. We all know that you only care about the mighty dollar. Also caring about the whole almighty dollar thing shows up like with insulin. I mean, this is a life-saving hormone that I myself have to inject daily, but you assholes keep raising the prices because you have no heart. Yes, now it's out of context comic time. If you guys want to send me an out of context comic, then you can hit me up on Twitter at Godless Engineer or message me on Facebook at Godless Engineering. Today's out of context comic concerns the Fantastic Four. Apparently Sue Storm is like, darling, I don't know what to say. And then Reed Richards is like, fine, wives should be kissed, not heard. Way to be misogynistic there, Marvel. And the Fantastic Four. Goddamn, Reed Richards. Maybe not tell the woman that she's supposed to be seen, not heard, or well, rather kissed and not heard. Damn. They were misogynistic back in the day, right? You guys hear that? Shitty ass science. We're gonna answer some science shit really wrong. Oh man, what's up, heathens? How y'all doing, you filthy fucking heathens out there? We got some more shitty ass science today. What we got going on? How can superheroic medieval English human knights love mermaids or magical or theological humans if he has no superpowers in medieval England? Oh man, this is a really good question. I mean, you got to imagine King Arthur must have been a superior wizard to Merlin, and Merlin was actually his apprentice. See, that's where they get all this historical shit all fucking screwy and stuff. You see, obviously Arthur was the main magician guy, and he used his wand, aka his big thick dick, and he cast spells all over fucking England. That's how he was able to fall in love with the mermaid. If you guys didn't know, King Arthur fell in love with a mermaid. If you want to know more about mermaid sex, you come to the wrong place because I don't fuck fish. If you want to learn more, maybe you should try to find some actual information on King Arthur, because obviously he swung that big meat stick around and stuck it in some fishy parts. Now, of course, King Arthur had knights. The knights got the sloppy seconds of the mermaids, you know, like the sisters and all this other stuff. So, I mean, well, King Arthur's meat sword was stuck inside Ariel, you know, from The Little Mermaid. Obviously, King Arthur was fucking Ariel. She's got like 9 sisters or something like that, you know, as all fish do. So, basically, the knights were able to fucking power fuck these mermaids because they had superhuman powers. And then the other fucking knights around that time, they also had powered up meat swords where they would go and they would fuck different gods and everything like that. What you're missing out in history is the fact that all of the knights and kings and everything like that had actual magical powers so that they could fuck all these goddesses and gods. Yes, sometimes they were homosexual, but that's okay. We accept everybody here, don't we? I mean, that's just how the past was. Of course, now if you follow the Lord Jesus Christ, the only dick you suck is Jesus Christ dick. The only person you go face down ass up for is God. So you best keep that in mind when you're reading all this historical shit. Anyways, that's enough for shitty ass science or shitty ass history. Anyways, King Arthur had a big meat sword that was magical. Bye, heathens. Get the fuck out of here. What the fuck happened? What the fuck is this question even? Like, how can super heroic medieval English human knights? Like, were there super heroic medieval English human knights? Also, nobody ever loved mermaids or magical or theological humans. Like, what the fuck? Anyways, I hope y'all like that shitty ass science. Bro Cephas doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. Anyways, y'all ready for comments? Comments of the day. Prepare to face bomb yourself in the next week. Alright, first up on the comments. Vitamin D proves the sun is not a ball of fire. You can't get a tan from a bonfire, but you can get a tan from a UV light. What? Do you even know how vitamin D is, like, produced in your body? Okay, first of all, no, the sun is not a ball of fire. It's a ball of plasma, and there's nuclear fusion going on inside of it that produces photons of light that have a lot of energy attached to them, and when they hit the Earth, some of that energy is transferred to the Earth. And that's what ends up causing the vitamin D to be produced in your body, is when those UV rays and shit hit your skin, it's part of the reaction. Now, you can get a tan from a bonfire, but you're more likely to get burnt up first from a bonfire than to actually get a significant tan from a bonfire. If there was a way that you could block all of the UV rays and the UV spectrum that doesn't actually produce the tan, like the melanin in your skin, cause your skin to react that way, you could block all of that, then you could get a significant tan from it. But that's also why the UV lights are specifically designed to only emit those instead of more of the light that causes the heat transfer. So, I mean, you're right. The sun isn't a ball of fire. It's a ball of plasma that's run on nuclear fusion. But also research how vitamin D is produced in the body. My geography teacher believes the Earth is flat. Let me repeat that for you, because apparently you're not listening to me. My geography teacher! I am so sorry your geography teacher believes the Earth is flat. And I don't understand why a geography teacher would think that, but obviously it happens. I've also heard reports of like physics and other science teachers reporting that they believe in the flat earth. And I don't know if these people are just like being a massive po to their child audience or their school kids. Still, I don't think any teacher needs to be playing around with this, because like with those kids, it's not a joke, okay? It's just not. So stop it. Stop.
Jesus obviously existed. I don't know how this is still debated. Obviously, all of the Christian scholars and all of the Christian institutions say that he definitely existed, so why should we even question that shit? I mean, even the atheist scholars think he existed.
Based on criteria set up by Christians in order to prove that he definitely existed. There is a lot of debate around this right now, and there are more and more scholars that are coming forward saying that they at least are agnostic on whether or not Jesus actually existed. Now, I know that a lot of you out there don't agree with me about mythicism, and that's totally fine, but I do have good reasons to think the things that I do. There's a clear progression for it, and segue, if you want to know more about my position and why I'm a mythicist, then you can download the Crestus app. The link is in the description to the website. Check it out. It's got a lot of great resources there. If you're interested in early Christianity, it's also a great resource for that. But back onto the criteria for proving that Jesus existed. A lot of the criteria is bunk, and it has been proved by multiple scholars in the mainstream that it is bunk, like the embarrassment criteria. Basically, if they think that something is embarrassing to first century Christians, then obviously that's real. The most famous argument for that particular criteria is the women finding the tomb empty, and that's not actually a good embarrassment criteria, especially because it appears in Mark, and Mark was later added because it was very embarrassing to the first Christians that Mark doesn't account for post-resurrection appearances of Jesus. So if this particular portion was actually embarrassing, then there was multiple chances for them to actually change it. Because if Jesus didn't actually appear after, he supposedly rose from the dead, and it was added on to the end of Mark, you would think that people would be able to ask people that were actually there as to whether or not he did in the fashion that Mark records it in. Of course, we actually know that that portion of Mark was added sometime in the 2nd century. So again, there's little evidence to show that this embarrassment criteria can actually apply to the Jesus question.
Ha 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 ha! Just watch Ken Hovind wipe the floor with you. You should just lay off the booze when attempting to formulate arguments. Major fail, dude. You couldn't even win against a fucking rock, you booze hound.
Ironically enough, in that particular debate, I only had one beer. Recently on my honeymoon, I figured out that at 5.7% alcohol by volume, it takes at least 3 beers for me to become inebriated enough for you to actually notice it and for it to actually affect my judgment, even in just regular discourse. Obviously, if you've been drinking, don't drive, because that will only result in a bad situation altogether, even after one drink. But driving a vehicle, operating major machinery is very different than having some kind of discourse or argument. You can have 1-2 beers and still have a good amount of discourse. Now, of course, that was at 5.7% alcohol by volume. At like 5% alcohol by volume, which is what the Bud Light that I was drinking, actually, that one may be less. Bud Light may be less, but regardless, it takes like a whole pitcher of beer for me to get at least enough to where I shouldn't be debating. I know this for a fact. Your whole ad hominem here really doesn't mean shit.
Do you even know what you're saying? Or are you just reading wiki pages? Gyroscopes have nothing to do with gravity, have to do with the conservation of momentum. You just seem like you don't know what you're really saying.
Well, actually, because gyroscopes orient themselves towards the pull of gravity, yes, they do have something to do with gravity. As far as like the shift that you would measure on a laser gyroscope or anything like that, that doesn't necessarily have anything to do with gravity. The shift in the gyroscope actually does have to do with the spinning of the Earth and the forces that are acting upon that gyroscope. With small mechanical gyroscopes, you will not be able to detect this shift because the Coriolis force is not powerful enough in order to shift the gyroscope. But if you have a big enough gyroscope, like mechanical gyroscope, you can be able to detect that shift using the Coriolis force. That's where the laser and the fiber optic gyroscopes come in handy because they operate on a different principle called the Sagnac effect. And with these laser and fiber optic gyroscopes, the effect is large enough to detect the 15-degree shift that the Earth goes through when the Earth rotates.
I'll give you a good reason why Moses probably did exist. Because we have eyewitness testimony of Jesus proclaiming that Moses did exist. There's actually evidence of Exodus in the world. Jesus is predicted in many prophecies.
So again, you want to learn more about early Christianity and all that, download the Christus app. But the fact that Jesus is predicted in many prophecies and that we have Jewish scholars in the early first century, Philo of Alexandria, mentioning or at least connecting this archangel of Judaism with this whole idea of a Messiah. That's what Philo does. He even describes him just like Paul ends up describing Jesus. Because of those things, because we have evidence of Jews that were interpreting these prophecies as talking about the Messiah, using the same language that Paul would later use to describe his Messiah, Jesus, I think that Jesus was thought of to have come to earth, at least by Paul, maybe, but the original belief was that Jesus descended into the celestial realm, was killed by Satan and his demons, and then he ascended back into heaven. This is supported by the fact that like the Osiris cult back in Egypt had the exact same teachings of their gods, that they lived and died in these celestial realms right above the earth, between the moon and the earth. So there's precedence for all of this in the actual scholar stuff. And like I said, you want to learn more, download the Crestus app. But Moses didn't actually exist. Modern mainstream scholarship affirms the fact that everything in the Pentateuch did not happen that way at all. Like the Genesis account of creation, everything, we all know that's bunk. But what we're talking about is Abraham, Moses, Noah, all that kind of shit. None of that is actually proven to be actual history. And the way that the Israelite people came through the area and lived in the area is totally different than what the Old Testament records. So that's how we know that Moses was most likely not a real person, along with Abraham and Noah.
MAGA man here just saying hashtag don't be gay.
So I don't know if this is supposed to be like a troll account or like a Poe or anything like that. I really don't know, but it's just it's a funny comment to leave. Just hashtag don't be gay. Be gay all you want to. I don't care. I don't know why you've got to encourage people not to be gay. I don't understand that.
JM 2064 here, coming from the future, by the way. This is inane. Consider me unsubbed. Maybe you can stop acting like a 12-year-old who thinks snot's funny. Well, I don't know if I think snot's funny or if I'm just funny in general there, man. I have enough people telling me that I'm funny in general, but anyways. JM 2064 coming from the future again. I figured I'd stop on by one more time just to let you know that sometimes your grading makes me not want to watch your videos. Just a thought, I see it in my feed. I go, I have to listen to him braying at the beginning again. And sometimes that's enough to just make me dial on. I wish you'd drop it.
Well, you see, I got kind of a consensus last week from the heathens out there that they love my intro. So, what's up, heathens? How y'all doing? This guy can go fuck himself.
Mark Friedman here. Wow, great science there, buddy. All you've done is show us that the box around the Earth doesn't show up in high-resolution images. Literally, that's all you've accomplished here.
Well, I mean, considering that in the high resolution and original versions of the thing doesn't contain the compression artifacts that are imposed by the digital copies of the image, and the fact that Rob was just using that to prove that the Earth was cut and pasted in there or somehow manipulated in there, I think that I proved my point with that.
Why would it show up at all in low res? You didn't even bother to try and answer that portion of the problem.
I did, though. Like, if you watch it, I said that it was compression artifacts from the JPEG compression scheme. I don't know if you watched the video there, man.
Why not show us other altered pics and prove that the tampering still shows up in high res and low res?
Well, I mean, what would that have accomplished? I mean, seriously, I really don't, I think that you would have just found some other way for me to do it. But the fact that it doesn't appear in the original high-res versions of it, showing that the compression algorithm that was used for that particular version of it produces those artifacts, I feel like that proves it enough that what he was saying was bullshit. So I didn't feel the need to go further with it. So
instead, you do whatever desperate globe earther does and find one tiny little thing and proclaim victory.
Well, I mean, if I can find one little thing that disproves his entire hypothesis, then I don't need to go further because his hypothesis is broke. See, that's how science works. If you can break the hypothesis, there's no need in further breaking it. I mean, that's beating a dead horse, which arguably you could say about the flat earth argument. It's beating a dead horse at this point. I mean, even you yourself say that I said what every other globe earther says about Rob Skiba's proof. It's beating a dead horse regardless.
There's hundreds of problems with the Apollo missions, but you found exactly one, then act like you've not only proven we landed on the moon, but that we also live on a spinning ball.
Well, no, I just proved that Rob Skiba's bullshit. It's already known that we live on a rotating Earth, and that we actually did land on the moon.
The best part is your arrogance and foul fucking language. LOL! It makes you appear professional. You prove nothing! Other than the tampering doesn't show up in the original 4K picture. Perhaps that's why 4K was chosen? Like, is this video for real?
Yeah, that video was for real. I did disprove Rob Skiba. If you disagree, that's fine. Bring me the evidence that shows me I'm wrong in my point about what breaks his hypothesis. So, try again, please. Bring more evidence, not just shitty rhetoric.
Booga booga shockwave here. You are a puss! Fucking with God is the last thing you want to do in existence. Good, eh? And hope you change your ways.
I will continue to fuck with God, and I will continue doing whatever you think it is that I do that makes me a puss. Fucking with God is not the first thing I wanted to do in existence, but it definitely is fun, especially when I trigger idiots like you.
Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds here. Wow, the Godless engineer back on this show? Obviously not the sharpest tool in his head or in the shed. Yes, he has looked of stupid dollar store mentality. Oh, look, another t-shirt.
I am actually planning on producing another design for the Teespring store, so be on the lookout for that. But Godless Engineer back on this show? Motherfucker, I've always been on the Bible podcast and on my own channel. You may not want to consider me the sharpest tool in the shed. That's completely fine. But the fact is that I make more sense than you do, and this comment is a good example of how you don't make fucking sense.
You, along with many atheists, should take careful concern with what you say. Someone is reading, watching your lies, and possibly losing faith. You and others will have to give an account one day. Think this through seriously.
And then, attached to this tweet, to me, was a veiled, kill yourself. This is a Christian kill yourself message right here. First of all, I hope that the arguments that I bring, the holes that I point out in the theology of religions and everything like that, I hope that people seriously consider them. Not so that they will lose their faith or anything, but just so that they'll be educated on the theological holes that are actually in their religion. And if you can somehow maneuver your way around that and still believe in your God, fine. I don't care. But if you can't, wouldn't you want to know about those holes? Wouldn't you want to know how much sense this Yahweh God of the Bible doesn't make? How much he breaks his own requirements document, the Bible? Wouldn't you want to know the problems with that so that you yourself can consider the options and determine for yourself whether or not you believe in that shit? I would hope that you would, and that's what I intend to do with this channel. To point out those holes, to defend the scientific consensus against pseudoscience as well as religious dogma. Oh yeah, as well, y'all stand up and use your voice against bullshit just like this.
Frank Bartolomucci here. This is absurd. No one knows this, but to say it's mechanics. No scientist was there. Space doesn't exist. Too many people believe and trust man, and men lie. God doesn't. You're lost. Repent and follow Christ. Scientism is your God. Go fuck yourself. I'm gonna go suck Jesus' dick right now because I need some wisdom from God, and the only way you can get wisdom out of God is by sucking it out of his dick.
Space doesn't exist and no scientist was there. Well, scientists don't have to be at the beginning of the universe in order to know how the universe began or started. Space does exist. We've got multiple ways in knowing that's true. So the consensus and the general knowledge is that space does in fact exist. I like how you say that too many people believe and trust man, but and that men lie, but that God doesn't. Well, the only way that you know about God and know that God doesn't lie is through man. So how can you even be sure that they're not just lying about what this God says? I mean, God could have been speaking to the people that wrote the Old Testament. But if that was the situation, then they obviously lied about what that God told them. So there's no way that we can trust what they say about this God. So my point is that the God that's in the Bible, like as it's described in the Bible, I don't think that he exists whatsoever. And there's multiple ways in which you can prove that that God fails his own requirements because he's laid them all out in his Bible, what his requirements actually are. Also, I don't know how scientism can be my God. Like, that doesn't even make sense.
Colin here. Beardy Godbother needs to iron the creases out of his backdrop.
Well, I mean, sometimes I don't, key out my background well enough and I don't set up the settings correctly, but right now I'm kind of working with a limited space here, so thanks for the critique, but go fuck off.
The Conculate here, and just wanted to tell you, your delivery is too choppy. As a matter of fact, you wouldn't even do a live stream or a live debate because your idiot subscribers would realize you're willfully ignorant and lack basic comprehension.
What makes this particular comment very funny and idiotic is that it was actually put on a live stream. The comment was made on an actual live stream. And it's so hilarious to me that they're like, you could never do a live stream. I'm live streaming right now. What are you talking about?
You're not live streaming. This is a video on YouTube.
Well, yeah, but it was archived after the live stream happened. It's like,
nah, you can't live stream. You lack total comprehension. You can't even operate a fucking computer. How did you even work this shit enough to even put a video on YouTube, you goddamn idiot?
Anyways, that's it for the comments today. I hope that you heathens enjoyed it. Please don't forget to go down there, get that poll, and vote for this week's dumbass. While you're down there, make sure you smash that like button and subscribe if you like this kind of dumbass content. Don't forget to stand up and use your voice, and I will see you heathens later.